When was the last time that you took a trip to the beach and actually looked at what was in those little tide pools? When was the last time you allowed your child to explore them? When was the last time you explored them yourself? Today, we're going to look at 5 discussion points you can have with your child to encourage further learning and connection to the tide pools, as well as what a toddler learns just by exploring them. Hi, I'm Mary, and at This Indulgent Life, I help you navigate parenting, education, and living your extraordinary life. Have you ever explored a tide pool? What did you find fascinating about it? Let me know in the comments below. So a while back, I was walking with Boogie. He wanted outside so bad. Honestly, I didn't even want to go outside. But I knew that it would be a good opportunity for us to kind of explore and get out of the house. And honestly, it was really good for both of us. We walked down to this little opening on the beach. And it's not much of a beach, it's mostly rocks. And it was low tide. And so we just kind of wandered out onto them. And it was such a pleasant surprise. We just meandered across the rocks, and I looked down, and then you just see this life kind of glittering beneath the surface, just kind of fluttering around. And in Hong Kong, you don't usually expect to see life in the waters. It's not crystal blue. It's not like we're living in the Caribbean or the Mediterranean even. There's not as much life here as there used to be. And so for me to look down and see all of these little hermit crabs and sea snails, it made me realize that there's so much to be seen here. Now, if you live on the Pacific coast, you might even see things like starfish, seahorses that might have gotten trapped, lots of different things. So really kind of take a time to go to your local tide pool and see what life lives in there. As we traipsed over the beach, filled with shells from oysters to hermit crabs to sea snails, and even some organic jelly blob creature that I was too afraid to touch and could not get a good photo of, I realized that there was life still left in these waters. It surprised and delighted me at the same time, and it explains the abundance of seashells on this beach. Exploring tide pools is the perfect activity for anybody of any age. However, the simplicity of exploring the different textures and smells and sights and sounds, and yes, even taste sometimes, is essential for a toddler in exploring the world around them. As he lifts round pebbles and larger barnacle-covered rocks, he's unwittingly learning how to compare and contrast, to categorize, and to experiment with nature as his classroom. He also learns about empathy and caring for others as we gently pick up and put back all the little hermit crabs that we explore. He's discovering that sometimes shells are not just things in the sand to play with, but instead homes for little animals, and that we shouldn't just bang it on other rocks or shells or throw it. Instead, we should gently place it back where and how we found it. It's important to model proper care of animals that we're exploring, to show them how to properly look at them, touch them, and let them go, even from such a young age. At the same time as he's discovering the natural elements of tidal pools and all the little creatures that inhabit the area, he's also discovering things about himself. He's learning what sounds, textures, and tastes he does and does not like. He's learning how to balance himself as he walks on uneven and even sharp surfaces, and how to catch himself when he does start to slip or lose his balance. As these are vital lessons for proper physical and mental development, I don't stop him, even when I myself may be a little scared for him. I support him emotionally and even physically from a safe distance. As the tide was out, I don't have to worry about big waves crashing on us. There are no big drop-offs where we were, so this is a little easier, to be fair. But in general, I try to be a minimum of an arm's reach away unless he wants to interact with me. This is so that I'm not taking away from his own personal discoveries, and I'm not projecting my own fears and sensory issues onto him. It's incredibly important to actually let your kids fall and not to save them all the time. It's through these falls that they learn how their bodies move, what they're capable of, and how to move so they don't fall in the future. It builds the trust they need in their bodies to accomplish bigger things later in life. Though I get it. I freak out internally too. I just try to keep it internalized. For a toddler, these experiences are enough. These experiences are learning. The playing, the tasting, the feeling. That's learning for a toddler. If you have an older child, then maybe these 5 questions to further explore tide pools may be useful for you. Here are 5 questions that you could ask your child to help further the experience of tidal pools. This is perfect as a supplement for the traditional educated child and perfect for those who are homeschooled or unschooled. The age and abilities of your child will determine how in-depth you go into each question and how many of these questions you even get to. But I encourage you not to ask and expect to receive a right answer. There is no right answer. Instead, encourage a journey of discovery. If you're worried that you won't have the right answer to these questions, that's okay, because these questions aren't geared to having right or wrong answers. Life isn't filled with standardized tests. Instead, it's filled with opinions that you have to learn how to support with research and experiences. So here are 5 discussion points or questions to encourage deeper understanding of tide pools. Question number 1. What do you think life is like for the plants and animals in a tidal pool? I suggest asking this twice. Ask it before you go and explore the tidal pools, because then you can see where their preconceptions are and what knowledge they already have. Then ask them afterwards to see how much they've learned, as well to see where you might need to help guide them. I like this question because it encourages empathy and makes a child think beyond themselves, to think what life would be like for someone or something else. Question number 2. Why do the animals stay in the tidal pools? Why don't they just go back out with the tide? If you have a young child, they ask why questions all the time. So they may actually come up with this question all on their own, and if they do, that's fantastic. But if they don't, make sure you ask it. It will make a child have to think about the pros and cons to life in a tide pool and the ocean beyond. They will have to develop an opinion and find reasons to support their opinion. This will obviously look different depending on the age of your child and if they're traditionally schooled or homeschooled. So keep your expectations realistic. But this is really good practice for preschoolers and high schoolers alike. Question number 3. How do animals and plants survive in a tide pool? They can compare and contrast the different animals that they see, discuss the dangers they observe, and make conclusions about those observations. Question number 4. How is the trash affecting the tidal pools? I don't know about everywhere in the world, but I do know that in the past year I've been to 2 beaches in Florida, both on the Gulf side and the Atlantic side. I've been to multiple beaches in Hong Kong, and I've been to beaches in South Carolina and New Jersey, and all of them have had some level of plastic pollution. And in Hong Kong, we even have needles and plastic vials. So this is a really prevalent problem across the world. So needless to say, it's a very important topic. Again, something to help kids develop empathy for creatures beyond themselves, as well as to see cause and effect and become problem solvers, because once they see the problem, they're going to want to learn how to solve it. And of course, this brings us to question number 5. It's a nice progression. Question number 5 is, What could we do to help the plants and animals that live in the tidal pools? This is an open-ended question, and it really encourages kids to become problem solvers. In my art class, we have a unit on how artists solve problems, and it can be anything from sculptures to boycott posters to installation pieces and making things out of that trash. So it really helps to bring awareness, to create inventions, and they really start thinking about how to solve those problems. This question is great to help kids get out of that whole right and wrong mentality that we have in schools today and really develop the critical thinking skills that they need in life. You can use this as a connection to writing, math, science, engineering, art, or you could just leave it as a discussion point. If they're not showing interest, then don't push them. You don't want to take a great learning opportunity and a fun experience and turn it into an obligation. They may come back to it later. Don't have to push them now. If exploring the tide pools has captured the heart of your little learner, then don't let it stop with just a discussion. Encourage some active exploration. Who knows if an idea that your child comes up with could become an actual application that could one day fix our seas. And even if it's not, you've created a problem solver, a critical thinker, and a lifelong learner. So what tidal pools have you explored? Did you ask yourself any of these questions? What other discussions and explorations did you have? Let me know down in the comments below. If you want to be inspired, if you want to be a more mindful parent, if you want to know what it takes to take that next step in creating your extraordinary life, then make sure to hit that subscribe button below and then hit the little bell so you get notifications when new videos go up. You'll get weekly tips and inspiration on how to create your ideal life. Thank you so much for watching this episode of This Learning Life, and I look forward to seeing you next time.